The elder's hand trembled as she placed the ceremonial veil over Nora Campbell's dark hair, and Nora knew with absolute certainty that she was being sent to die. The village of Millbrook had nestled against the base of Raven's Peak for 300 years, and for 300 years the people had paid tribute to the creature in the hills. Every generation, when the harvests failed and sickness crept through the streets, the elders would choose a bride. Always a woman without family, without protection, without anyone to mourn her loss. This year, that woman was Nora. "The monster has demanded a wife," Elder Thorne said, her voice brittle with age and something that might have been guilt. "You will go to the old manor at sunset. You will not run. If you do, the entire village will suffer." Nora stood in the community hall, wearing a white dress that smelled of mothballs and other women's fear. She was 22 years old, an orphan who worked at the village library, and she had always known her life was worth less than others in the eyes of those who made decisions. Still, knowing it and feeling it were different things entirely. "What happens to the brides?" she asked, though she already knew no one had ever returned. Elder Thorne looked away. "That is between you and the creature you will marry." The sunset came too quickly. Nora walked the dirt road leading up into the hills alone, carrying nothing but the clothes on her back and a small bag with a few belongings the elders had deemed appropriate. The white dress caught on brambles and thorns, tearing at the hem, but she didn't care. What did it matter if she arrived pristine or bloodied? The end would be the same. The manor rose from the hilltop like a monument to forgotten elegance. It was larger than she'd expected, built of gray stone with towering spires and Gothic windows that gleamed like watchful eyes in the dying light. The iron gates stood open, waiting. Nora's legs shook as she climbed the steps to the massive front door. Before she could knock, it swung inward, revealing an entrance hall lit by hundreds of candles. The flickering light cast dancing shadows across marble floors and walls hung with portraits of pale, beautiful people dressed in clothing from centuries past. "Hello?" Her voice echoed in the vast space. A figure materialized from the shadows so quickly that Nora stumbled backward with a gasp. He was tall, impossibly so, with skin the color of fresh snow and hair like spilled moonlight that fell past his shoulders. His eyes were the deep crimson of arterial blood, and when he looked at her, Nora felt like prey beneath a predator's gaze. "You came," he said, and his voice was like velvet dragged across steel. "They usually send someone who tries to run." "I was told the village would suffer if I did," Nora replied, proud that her voice didn't shake. He moved closer and she could see him more clearly now. He wore modern clothes, black pants and a black shirt, but he carried himself like royalty, every movement controlled and purposeful. His face was angular and severe, beautiful in a way that made her chest ache and completely inhuman. "I am Adriel Konstantin," he said, "king of the northern bloodline, lord of the eternal court, and apparently your husband as of this moment." "I'm Nora Campbell," she whispered. "Librarian, orphan, sacrifice." Something flickered across his perfect features. "Come with me. We should speak." He turned and walked deeper into the manor, and after a moment's hesitation, Nora followed. What choice did she have? She had been given to the monster, and the monster had claimed her. He led her through corridors lined with more portraits, past rooms filled with furniture that looked centuries old but perfectly preserved. Finally, they entered a study with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a fireplace where flames crackled warmly, and two leather chairs positioned near the hearth. "Sit," Adriel commanded, gesturing to one of the chairs. Nora sat, perching on the edge of the seat, ready to bolt though she had nowhere to run. Adriel remained standing, watching her with those unsettling red eyes. "How much do you know about me?" he asked. "About what I am?" "The village says you're a monster, that you've been in these hills for hundreds of years, that you demand a bride every few decades and they're never seen again." "And you believe I kill them?" Nora met his gaze directly. "Don't you?" "No." The word was sharp, final. "I am vampire Nora Campbell. I am immortal. I drink blood to survive, and I am bound by laws older than your village's foundations. I do not kill innocents, and I have never harmed any of the women sent to me." "Then where are they?" Adriel moved to the fireplace, staring into the flames. "I send them away. Give them new identities, money, a chance at the life they choose. Usually they want to disappear to cities where no one knows they were once sacrifices. I hire people to help them start over. Nora's mind reeled. Why? Why demand a bride if you just send them away? Because 200 years ago, I made a treaty with your village's founders. He turned back to her, and in the firelight, his white hair seemed to glow. There was a plague. Vampires and humans both were dying. I had the cure, a property in my blood that could be synthesized into medicine, but I was being hunted by vampire politics and needed a safe haven. The village offered me protection, secrecy, and I offered them the cure and my protection from other supernatural threats. But treaties between vampires and humans require blood bonds. Marriage, in the old way, is such a bond. So you marry someone every few decades to maintain a treaty? The bond weakens over time without renewal. When it fades, I require a new bride to re-establish it. The magic doesn't care if the marriage is real, only that the ceremony is performed and blood is shared. Nora processed this, trying to reconcile the monster from village stories with the man before her. Why do you let them think you're a killer? Because fear keeps them from asking too many questions. Fear keeps the treaty simple. He studied her carefully. You're different from the others. They wept or screamed. You just walked through my door like you were visiting a library, not a monster's den. I was terrified, Nora admitted. I am terrified, but crying wouldn't change anything. Something almost like approval crossed his features. Practical. I like that. He moved to a cabinet and withdrew a crystal decanter filled with dark red liquid. We'll perform the ceremony tonight, complete the bond. Then I'll arrange for your new life, wherever you wish to go. You'll be free within a month. Just like that? Just like that. He poured the liquid into 2 glasses. This is wine mixed with a drop of my blood. We each drink, speak the old words, and the bond forms. It won't hurt. Nora stood, accepting the glass he offered. And you've done this how many times? You're the 7th. Don't you ever want it to be real? The question hung between them, and for a moment, something raw and lonely passed through Adriel's crimson eyes. What I want is irrelevant. No one would choose this life, choose me if they had any other option. I won't trap anyone in my world. Before Nora could respond, the windows exploded inward with a deafening crash. Glass showered across the floor as dark figures poured into the room, moving with the same inhuman speed as Adriel. There were 5 of them, all with pale skin and eyes like colored jewels, all radiating menace. Adriel moved faster than Nora's eyes could follow, placing himself between her and the intruders. The wineglass shattered on the floor, red liquid spreading like blood across the marble. "Vladek," Adriel said, and his voice had gone cold as winter death. "You violate the sanctuary of my home." One of the intruders stepped forward, a man with skin like porcelain and hair the color of raven's wings. His eyes were violet, and when he smiled, his fangs were visible. "Your home. This is disputed territory, Konstantin. The Southern Court has filed a formal challenge to your claim on this region. The challenge was denied by the High Council. The High Council is weak. Times are changing, old king." Vladek's gaze slid to Nora, and she felt ice slide down her spine. "And this is your new bride? How fragile she looks, how easily broken." Adriel's hand shot out, grabbing Vladek by the throat and slamming him against the wall so hard the stone cracked. "You will not touch her. You will not speak to her. You will leave my territory now, or I will end you. Council be damned." The other 4 vampires moved forward, but Vladek raised a hand, stopping them even as Adriel's fingers tightened around his throat. Such passion for a human pet. Perhaps the rumors are true. Perhaps the Northern King has gone soft. Test me and find out. For a long moment, no one moved. No one. Then Vladek laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "We'll go, for now. But this isn't over, Konstantin. The old ways are dying, and you with them." Adriel released him, and Vladek straightened his clothes with exaggerated care. He looked at Nora one more time, his expression calculating. "Enjoy your brief time as queen, little human. Mortality suits you." Then they were gone, vanishing through the broken windows as quickly as they'd come. Nora realized she was shaking, Her hands clenched so tight her nails had drawn blood from her palms. Adriel turned to her, and his face had transformed into something concerned and gentle. "Are you hurt?" He reached for her, then stopped, his hands hovering uncertainly. "Did the glass cut you?" "I'm fine," she managed. "What was that? Who were they?" "Enemies. The vampire world is complicated, filled with courts and politics and old grudges." He looked at the broken windows, his jaw tight. "I thought I had more time before they moved against me. I was wrong." "Why do they want your territory?" "Because it's strategic, borders 3 other regions, and because taking it from me would weaken my position in the council. Vampire politics is about power. Always power." He turned back to her, and there was something fierce in his eyes. "We need to complete the ceremony now. The bond will give me additional magical authority over this land, make it harder for them to challenge my claim, and it will protect you." "Protect me? I thought you were sending me away." "That was before Vladek saw you." Adriel's hands clenched into fists. "He'll use you to get to me if he can. A bonded bride has protections under vampire law, but only if the bond is complete." Nora's head spun. "This is insane. I came here expecting to die, and now I'm caught in vampire politics?" "I know. I'm sorry. I never wanted you involved in this ugliness." He moved to the cabinet again, withdrawing another bottle and 2 fresh glasses. "But we're out of options. Complete the bond with me. Let me keep you safe until we resolve this, and then I promise I'll still help you leave if that's what you want." "And if I refuse?" "Then Vladek will take you to hurt me, and he won't be kind about it." The raw honesty in his voice convinced her more than any argument could have. "Please, Nora, let me protect you." She looked at this creature, this vampire king who had supposedly killed dozens of women, and saw only someone trying desperately to keep her alive. It was absurd. It was terrifying. It was her only real choice. "Okay," she whispered. "What do I need to do?" Relief flooded his features. He poured the wine mixed with his blood, handed her a glass, and took one himself. "Repeat after me. By blood and breath, by moon and night, I bind myself to you, Adriel Konstantin, in marriage true and power shared." Nora repeated the words, her voice growing stronger with each syllable. Adriel spoke his own vow, replacing her name with his, and then they both drank. The liquid was sweet and metallic, strange but not unpleasant. The moment she swallowed, warmth spread through her chest like sunlight blooming beneath her ribs. She gasped, and Adriel caught her as her knees buckled. "I've got you," he murmured, and his arms were steady and cool around her. "The bond is forming. Just breathe through it." The warmth intensified, then settled into a low hum she could feel in her bones. When she opened her eyes, everything looked sharper, clearer. She could hear Adriel's heartbeat, slow and steady, and beneath that, the whisper of his breath. "What is this?" she asked. "I feel strange." "The bond. It doesn't make you vampire, but it connects us. You'll be stronger now, heal faster, live longer, and I'll always know if you're in danger." He helped her to a chair, his touch careful. "The effects will settle in a few hours?" Nora sat, trying to process everything that had happened in the space of an hour. "So I'm really married to you now?" "Yes. In the eyes of vampire law and human magic, you're my wife. My queen, technically. I don't feel like a queen. I feel like a librarian in a torn white dress sitting in a vampire's study." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You're handling this remarkably well." "I'm definitely going to panic later," she assured him. "But right now, I'm too overwhelmed for panic." He knelt beside her chair, bringing himself to eye level, and Nora was struck again by how beautiful he was. Inhumanly so, like something carved from marble and moonlight. "I meant what I said. I'll keep you safe, whatever it takes." "Why?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. "Why do you care? I'm just another bride sent to fulfill a treaty." "Because you walked into my home expecting death and faced it with dignity. Because you ask real questions instead of just screaming. Because," he trailed off, looking away, "because I'm tired of being alone, and you don't look at me like I'm a monster." "You are a monster, though, aren't you?" "Yes." His gaze returned to hers, unflinching. "I've lived for 600 years. I've killed, though I follow laws that restrict it to those who've earned death through their own violence. I drink blood. I can't face sunlight, and I'm stronger and faster than any human. I am absolutely a monster. But you're not evil. I try not to be. Nora reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away, and touched his cheek. His skin was cool and smooth, like marble warmed slightly by candlelight. He went absolutely still beneath her hand, his eyes widening. "Then we'll figure this out," she said. "Together, since we're married now." "You don't have to stay," he reminded her, but his voice had gone rough. "Once the threat is dealt with." "I know, but maybe I will anyway." The words surprised her as much as they seemed to surprise him. "I don't have anything waiting for me out there. No family, no prospects. Maybe being a vampire queen is better than being invisible in a village that was happy to sacrifice me." Adriel's hand came up to cover hers where it rested on his face. "You would never be invisible, Nora Campbell. You shine too bright for that." Before she could respond, a sound echoed through the manor, a deep bell tolling midnight. Adriel rose smoothly. "Come, I'll show you to your room. You need rest, and I need to make security arrangements." He led her up a grand staircase to the second floor, down another corridor, and through a door into a bedroom that made her breath catch. It was enormous, with a 4-poster bed draped in midnight blue silk, a fireplace, plush carpets, and windows that overlooked the hills. Everything was luxurious and beautiful and completely overwhelming. "This is too much," she said. "This is the Queen's chamber. It's yours by right now." He moved to the wardrobe and opened it, revealing shelves of clothing in various styles. "I keep these for the brides. Take what you need. There's a bathroom through that door. You'll find everything you require." "Where will you be?" "I don't sleep, so I'll be patrolling the grounds and making calls to allies, but I'm linked to you through the bond now. If you need me, just call my name in your mind, and I'll hear you." Nora nodded, exhaustion finally beginning to creep through the adrenaline. "Adriel, thank you for not being what I expected." His expression softened. "Thank you for giving me a chance to be more than your fear. Sleep well, my queen." He left, closing the door quietly behind him, and Nora sank onto the bed. The mattress was incredibly soft, and the room smelled of lavender and old books. She should change. She should wash. But instead, she just lay back and stared at the ceiling, trying to understand how her life had transformed so completely in a single evening. She had come here to die. Instead, she had married a vampire king, been threatened by his enemies, and somehow, impossibly, felt safer than she had in years. The bond hummed in her chest like a second heartbeat, and when she closed her eyes, she could almost feel Adriel moving through the manor below, keeping watch, keeping her safe. Nora fell asleep still wearing the torn white dress, and she dreamed of crimson eyes and moonlight hair. She woke to sunlight streaming through windows that had been shattered the night before. Sitting up, Nora saw that the glass had been completely repaired, with no sign of damage remaining. The efficiency was startling and slightly unsettling. After washing and changing into clothes from the wardrobe, dark pants and a soft sweater that fit surprisingly well, Nora ventured downstairs. The manor felt different in daylight, less gothic and threatening, more like a museum filled with beautiful things. She found the kitchen, a surprisingly modern space hidden behind the historic facade, and was attempting to figure out the elaborate coffee maker when a voice made her jump. "Allow me, my lady." Nora spun to find a woman standing in the doorway. She was older, perhaps 60, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and kind eyes. Fully human, as far as Nora could tell. "I'm Margaret," the woman said, moving to take over the coffee preparation with practiced ease. "I manage the household for Lord Adriel. You must be the new bride." "Nora, yes?" "Yes. I didn't know anyone else was here. I live in the cottage on the grounds with my husband, Thomas. We've worked for Lord Adriel for 30 years. Margaret poured coffee into a delicate cup and offered it to Nora. "He's a good man, despite what he is. You'll be safe here." Nora accepted the coffee gratefully. "Everyone keeps telling me that, but last night vampires attacked us." "Yes, Thomas and I saw the aftermath. Lord Vladek has been pushing for territory for decades. It was only a matter of time before he made a direct move." Margaret began preparing breakfast with efficient movements. "But Lord Adriel is stronger than Vladek credits, and now he has extra motivation to win." "Me?" "You," Margaret smiled. "The other brides, they were just duty to him. But I watched him with you last night when he brought you through the kitchen for ice after the bond formed. He looks at you differently. We just met. Time works differently for vampires. 600 years of loneliness teaches you to recognize something real when you find it. Before Nora could process that, the kitchen door opened and Adriel stepped through. He stopped short, clearly not expecting to find her there, and Nora was struck by how the sunlight streaming through the windows didn't reach him. He stood carefully in the shadows, and she realized the manor must be designed to allow him to move during the day without exposure. "You're awake," he said, and there was something almost uncertain in his tone. "I hope you slept well." "Better than expected, considering everything." Nora studied him in the better light. He wore different clothes, dark gray today, and his white hair was pulled back from his face. He looked tired, if vampires could be tired. "Did you patrol all night?" "Yes, I've also been making calls, arranging for additional security. Some of my court will be arriving tonight." "Your court?" "Other vampires who've sworn loyalty to me. They're family, in the way immortals have family. You'll like them, I think. They're not as monstrous as Vladek." Margaret set a plate of food in front of Nora and gave Adriel a meaningful look. "Have you fed, my lord?" "Not yet." "Then do so. You'll be no good to anyone if you're weak." Margaret's tone was affectionate but firm, clearly used to managing him. Adriel nodded, moving to the refrigerator and withdrawing a bag of blood. He glanced at Nora. "Does this disturb you?" "Should it? Most humans find it unsettling." Nora considered, then shrugged. "I've seen worse things, and you need it to survive, right? It would be hypocritical to judge you for eating when I'm literally having bacon." A real smile crossed his face, transforming his severe features into something warm and approachable. "You continue to surprise me, Nora Campbell." "Nora Constantine now, technically." The smile widened. "Yes, that's going to take getting used to." They ate together in comfortable quiet, Margaret bustling around them, and Nora felt an odd sense of domesticity settle over the scene. This was her life now, at least temporarily. Breakfast in a vampire's kitchen while his human housekeeper fussed, and sunlight carefully avoided every corner where he stood. "What happens now?" Nora asked finally. "With Vladek and the territory dispute?" Adriel's expression grew serious. "The High Council will convene in 3 days to hear his formal challenge. I'll have to present our case, prove that my claim is legitimate and beneficial to the vampire world as a whole. Your presence, our bond, actually strengthens my position. It shows I maintain good relationships with the human community. So I'm a political asset. You're also my wife, and I take that seriously, even if it began as a treaty obligation." He met her gaze directly. "I know this is all backwards and strange. We should have had time to know each other, to choose this freely. But we're in this together now, and I want you to know that your opinion matters to me. If you have ideas, concerns, anything, tell me." Nora thought about that, about this powerful immortal king asking for her input. "I want to understand more about your world, the politics, the laws, the courts. If I'm going to be your queen, even temporarily, I should know what that means." "Then I'll teach you." He stood, extending a hand to her. "Come, I'll show you something." She took his hand, and he led her through the manor to a room she hadn't seen before. It was a library, but unlike any library Nora had ever encountered. The space was circular, with shelves spiraling up 3 stories, filled with books and scrolls and documents that looked ancient. "This is the archive," Adriel said, and there was reverence in his voice. "Records of vampire history going back 2,000 years. Laws, treaties, bloodline records, everything. It's one of only 3 complete archives in the world." Nora's librarian heart sang at the sight. "It's beautiful." "I thought you might appreciate it." He pulled down a leather-bound volume, handling it with care. "This is the current law code. Start here, and you'll understand the framework we operate within." She accepted the book, running her fingers over the embossed cover. "You're trusting me with this?" "You're my queen. This is yours as much as mine now." They spent the morning in the archive, Adriel explaining the complex hierarchy of vampire society, while Nora absorbed it all with the same focus she'd brought to cataloging books in the village library. There were 7 courts, each controlling territory and led by ancient vampires. The High Council consisted of representatives from each court and made decisions affecting all vampires. Territory disputes were supposed to be settled through council mediation, but increasingly, younger vampires like Vladek were challenging the old ways. "They think we should rule humans openly instead of staying in the shadows," Adriel explained. "They see our power as wasted, our laws as outdated. But they don't remember the wars, the witch hunts, the times when humans nearly destroyed us through sheer numbers and determination. So you're trying to prevent a war." "I'm trying to prevent extinction for both our kinds. Vladek's vision would lead to conflict that would devastate everyone." Nora understood then, truly understood what she had been drawn into. This wasn't just about territory or politics. It was about the future of two species and the fragile peace between them. "Then we'll stop him," she said firmly. Adriel looked at her, something like wonder in his crimson eyes. "You say that like you've already decided to stay." "Maybe I have, or maybe I just don't like bullies who break into people's homes and make threats." He laughed, a genuine sound that echoed warmly through the archive. "I knew I liked you." The moment hung between them, charged with something Nora didn't quite understand yet. Then Adriel's expression changed, his head tilting as if listening to something distant. "They're here," he said. "My court. Come meet them." They returned to the main hall just as the front door opened. 3 figures entered, all moving with that distinctive vampire grace. The first was a woman with skin like fresh snow and hair the color of copper, her eyes bright green and sharp. The second was a man, tall and lean with silver-white hair and eyes like amber. The third was another woman, smaller and delicate-looking with platinum blonde hair and eyes the color of ice. "Adriel," the copper-haired woman said, and her voice carried affection and exasperation in equal measure. "You've gotten yourself into trouble again." "When don't I?" Adriel replied, but he was smiling. He turned to Nora. "These are my family. Seraphine, my cousin and general of my forces." He indicated the copper-haired woman. "Lucian, my oldest friend and advisor." The silver-haired man bowed slightly to Nora. "And Isolde, my sister by bond, if not blood, and keeper of my household finances." The platinum blonde, Isolde, moved forward, studying Nora with disconcerting intensity. "So you're the bride who has everyone talking. The council is buzzing with speculation about you." "Speculation? About whether you're legitimate, whether the bond is real, whether Adriel married you out of genuine strategy or desperation." Isolde's ice-blue eyes narrowed. "I can feel the bond from here, though. It's strong. Stronger than his previous treaty marriages." "Because this one matters to him," Seraphine said, and there was approval in her tone. "We can all see it. The question is, does it matter to you, Nora Campbell?" All eyes turned to her, and Nora felt the weight of their attention. These were ancient creatures, powerful and dangerous, and they were asking if she cared about their king. "I came here expecting to die," Nora said slowly. "Instead, I found someone who treats me with respect, who asks my opinion, who's trying to protect peace between our kinds. So yes, it matters to me. He matters to me." Something shifted in the room, a tension Nora hadn't even noticed releasing. Lucian smiled, his amber eyes warm. "Well said. Welcome to the family, Queen Nora." "We don't have time for prolonged pleasantries," Adriel cut in, though his expression was pleased. "Vladek's challenge hearing is in 3 days. We need to prepare our case and shore up our defenses in case he tries something before then." The next hours were a blur of planning. Seraphine discussed security arrangements, posting guards around the property and establishing patrol routes. Lucian outlined the legal arguments they would present to the council, emphasizing Adriel's successful stewardship of the territory and his positive human relationships. Isolde managed logistics, arranging for transportation and accommodations when they traveled to the council meeting. Nora listened, occasionally asking questions that the others answered with patience and growing respect. She understood politics, had seen how power worked in her village on a smaller scale. This was different in scope, but not in essence. People, even immortal ones, jockeying for influence and control. As evening fell, the other vampires dispersed to their assigned tasks, leaving Nora and Adriel alone in the study once more. "You impressed them," Adriel said. "That's not easy to do." "They love you. They were always going to give me a chance for your sake." "Maybe. But you earned their respect on your own merits." He poured wine, regular wine this time, and offered her a glass. "How are you feeling? The bond should be fully settled now." Nora accepted the wine and considered the question. The humming warmth in her chest had become familiar, almost comforting. "I feel different, stronger, like you said. And I can sense you, sort of, your general direction and mood. The bond works both ways. I can feel you too." He paused. "You're anxious but not afraid, determined, a little overwhelmed." "That's accurate." She sipped the wine. "Is it always this intense?" "The bond? No, this is unusual." He looked troubled. "I've formed treaty bonds before, but they were minimal, just enough to satisfy the magic. This is deeper, more like a true mate bond." "Mate bond?" "Vampires can bond with someone completely, soul deep. It's rare and usually only happens with other vampires. I've never heard of it forming with a human, and certainly never this quickly." His crimson eyes met hers. "I think we might be genuinely matched, Nora, not just politically, but on a fundamental level." The implications of that rolled through her. "Is that possible? We barely know each other." "The bond doesn't care about time. It recognizes compatible souls." He set down his glass. "I'm not saying this to pressure you or make you feel trapped. You should know what's happening, that's all. What we do with this knowledge is entirely your choice." Nora's heart raced. "What do you want to do with it?" "I want to see where it leads. I want to know you, truly know you, without the urgency of threats and politics hanging over us. I want to give you the courtship you deserved before all of this." His voice had gone soft, vulnerable in a way she hadn't heard before. "But I'll understand if this is too much, too fast." She crossed to him, standing close enough to see the fine details of his face, the way his pupils dilated slightly as she approached. "I spent 22 years being invisible, being the girl no one noticed or cared about. And in 2 days, you've made me feel seen, valued, important. So no, it's not too much. It's terrifying and overwhelming and probably crazy, but it's not too much." His hand rose slowly, carefully to cup her face. His touch was cool and gentle, like he was afraid she might break. "You are precious, Nora Constantine. However this bond formed, I'm grateful for it." She leaned into his touch. "So am I." They stood like that, the vampire king and his human queen, and Nora felt something settle into place in her chest. This was right. Strange and unexpected, but right. The moment shattered when Seraphine burst into the room, her expression urgent. "We have a problem. Vladek just posted a formal accusation with the council claiming that Nora's bond is fraudulent, that Adriel is using blood magic to fake it and manipulate council law." Adriel's hand dropped from Nora's face, his entire demeanor shifting to combat readiness. "On what grounds?" "He claims the bond formed too quickly to be legitimate, that you must have used forbidden magic to force it." Seraphine's green eyes flashed with anger. "It's absurd, but several council members are demanding an investigation before they'll hear the territory dispute." "An investigation means they'll want to examine the bond directly," Lucian said, appearing in the doorway behind Seraphine. "They'll send an inquisitor to verify its authenticity." "How do they verify a bond?" Nora asked. The three vampires exchanged glances, and Adriel's jaw tightened. "It's invasive. The Inquisitor would probe both our minds, examining the bond's formation and nature. They would see our thoughts, our feelings, everything." "Everything. Everything," he confirmed grimly. "It's why most vampires would rather forfeit a claim than submit to inquisition. It's a violation of privacy on the deepest level." Nora thought about that, about strangers rifling through her mind and Adriel's. "What happens if we refuse?" "The council would assume we have something to hide and rule against us automatically," Isolde said, joining the others. "Vladek would get the territory and you would lose your legal protections as Adriel's bonded queen." "So we're trapped." "There might be another option," Lucian said slowly. "If we could get 3 council members to vouch for the bond's legitimacy before the Inquisitor arrives, they would be required to accept it without investigation. It's an old law, rarely used but still valid." "Which council members would vouch for us?" Adriel asked. "Most of them are neutral at best, and several are actively aligned with Vladek's faction." "What about Alara Nightshade?" Seraphine suggested. "She's always spoken favorably of your stewardship, and she values the old traditions." She does, but she's also cautious. She won't risk her reputation without proof the bond is genuine. Adriel began pacing, his movements agitated. We need something convincing, something undeniable. Nora's mind raced, turning over everything she'd learned about vampire law and bonds. An idea formed, reckless and potentially dangerous, but it might work. What if we demonstrated the bond publicly, showed the council exactly how strong it is in a way that can't be faked? How? Adriel stopped pacing, focusing entirely on her. The bond links us emotionally and mentally, right? So if something happened to one of us, the other would feel it immediately and intensely. She took a breath, steadying herself. What if we proved that in front of witnesses? If you were injured, I would react through the bond in a way that couldn't be faked or manipulated. That would prove it's real. Absolutely not, Adriel said flatly. I won't put you in danger to prove anything. Then I'll be the one injured. A small cut, nothing serious, but enough to trigger the bond response in you. Nora. It would work, Adriel. You know it would. She moved closer to him, willing him to understand. And it's less invasive than having an inquisitor tear through our minds. We control the situation, we demonstrate the bond on our terms, and we give the council the proof they need. Seraphine was nodding slowly. She's right. A public demonstration would be powerful evidence, and if we do it at the pre-hearing reception tomorrow night, we could sway council members before the formal session. I don't like it, Adriel growled. Any injury to her would hurt me far more than the bond response would prove. Which is exactly what would make it convincing, Lucian pointed out gently. Your reaction would be genuine and obvious. No one could claim it was staged. Adriel looked at Nora, conflict warring in his crimson eyes. You're sure about this? I'm sure. We need those 3 votes to avoid the Inquisition, and this is how we get them. He closed his eyes briefly, then nodded once, sharply. Fine. But we do it carefully, with a sterilized blade and a healer standing by. The smallest cut possible, just enough to trigger the bond. Agreed, Nora said, relieved. I'll make the arrangements, Isolde offered. The reception is at Alara's estate. I'll ensure we have everything we need. The group dispersed again to handle preparations, but Adriel caught Nora's hand before she could leave. Thank you for being willing to do this, but please understand, if anything goes wrong, if you're truly hurt, I will end the entire council before I let harm come to you. The fierce protectiveness in his voice made her shiver. I trust you to keep me safe. I will. Always. He pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her in an embrace that felt like a promise. You've become the most important thing in my world, Nora. I need you to know that. She pressed her face against his chest, feeling the slow, steady beat of his heart. You've become important to me, too. More than I expected, more than I thought possible in such a short time. They stood together in the quiet study, and Nora felt the bond pulse between them, warm and certain and real. Whatever happened at the council, whatever challenges Vladik threw at them, they would face it together. The reception at Alara Nightshade's estate was unlike anything Nora had ever experienced. The mansion was even grander than Adriel's manor, filled with vampires dressed in elegant clothes that ranged from modern formal wear to period costumes from various eras. The air hummed with power and old magic, and Nora felt acutely aware of being the only human in a room full of predators. Adriel stayed close to her side, his hand resting protectively on her lower back as he navigated the social complexities. Seraphine, Lucian, and Isolde worked the room, making quiet cases to various council members, while Nora smiled and played the part of the gracious queen. Alara Nightshade herself was a striking figure, tall and regal, with skin like polished ebony and white hair that fell in intricate braids past her waist. Her eyes were the deep purple of twilight, and when she approached Nora and Adriel, the crowd parted respectfully. Konstantin, she said, her voice rich and melodious, I hear you've finally taken a true bride, not just another treaty obligation. Lady Alara. Adriel bowed slightly, a gesture of respect between equals. May I present my wife, Nora Campbell? Nora curtsied, hoping she was doing it correctly. It's an honor to meet you, Lady Alara. The honor is mine, child. Alara's purple gaze was penetrating, seeming to look straight through her. There's talk that your bond isn't legitimate, that Konstantin has used forbidden magic to manufacture it. What do you say to these accusations? I say they're false, Nora replied firmly. The bond formed naturally through the ceremony, and it's as real as anything I've ever felt. Words are easy. Vladek has called for an inquisition to prove the truth. We're prepared to demonstrate the bond's authenticity without submitting to inquisition, Adriel said smoothly. If you would be willing to witness, we can provide undeniable proof tonight. Alara's eyebrow rose. What sort of demonstration? A test of the bond's depth and reality. With your permission, we would show the council exactly how connected we are. Interest flickered in Alara's eyes. She gestured to the center of the room. Very well, let us see this proof. The crowd gathered as Adriel led Nora to the middle of the floor. Vladek appeared at the edge of the circle, his violet eyes gleaming with anticipation. He clearly expected them to fail, to prove his accusations true. Isolde materialized beside Nora, pressing a small silver knife into her hand. Clean blade, barely sharp enough to cut. Are you ready? Nora nodded, her heart pounding. Adriel stood a few feet away, his expression locked down tight, but she could feel his anxiety through the bond, his desperate wish that there was another way. She met his eyes and smiled, trying to reassure him. Then, before her courage could fail, she drew the blade across her palm. It was shallow, barely more than a scratch, but blood welled immediately. The effect on Adriel was instantaneous and dramatic. He gasped, his hand flying to his own palm as if he'd been cut. His knees buckled, and only Seraphine's quick reflexes kept him from falling. The color drained from his already pale face, and when his crimson eyes found Nora's, they were wide with pain and panic. Nora, he breathed, and there was such raw emotion in his voice that several vampires in the crowd inhaled sharply. Nora felt it too, felt his anguish echo through the bond like she'd wounded him directly. The connection between them blazed bright and undeniable, visible even to those watching. Enough, Alara commanded. A healer rushed forward, wrapping Nora's hand in clean cloth and pressing until the bleeding stopped. The moment the wound was covered, Adriel straightened, but his eyes never left Nora. That, Alara said slowly, is no fake bond. I've seen manufactured connections, and they don't produce that kind of response. This is real, possibly the most powerful human-vampire bond I've witnessed in 3 centuries. Murmurs ran through the crowd. 2 other council members stepped forward, an older vampire with silver skin and golden eyes, and a younger one with features sharp as cut crystal. I agree, the silver-skinned vampire said. I am convinced of its legitimacy. As am I, the crystal-featured one added. 3 council members vouch for this bond. According to our laws, no inquisition is necessary. Vladek's face twisted with fury. This proves nothing. They could have rehearsed. You cannot rehearse genuine pain, Vladek. Alara cut him off coldly. Konstantin's response was real, instinctive, and far too powerful to fake. The bond is legitimate, and your accusation is dismissed. We will proceed to the territory hearing without this distraction. Adriel moved to Nora immediately, taking her bandaged hand in both of his with exquisite gentleness. Are you all right? I'm fine. It barely hurts. It hurt me. His voice was rough. Feeling you in pain through the bond, knowing I couldn't prevent it, he broke off, pulling her close. Thank you for doing that. And never do it again. She laughed shakily against his chest. Deal. Around them, the reception continued, but the mood had shifted. Council members approached to congratulate them, to comment on the strength of their bond, to offer support for the territory hearing. Vladek retreated to a corner with his allies, his expression murderous. You've made an enemy for life, Seraphine murmured as she joined them. Vladek doesn't forgive humiliation. He was already an enemy, Adriel replied. At least now we have the council's support for the hearing. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of political maneuvering and careful conversations. Nora played her role, charming and gracious, and was surprised to find she was actually enjoying it. These vampires were fascinating, each carrying centuries of history and perspective. She collected stories and insights like she once collected books, filing them away to examine later. When they finally returned to the manor in the early hours of morning, Nora was exhausted but satisfied. The sun would rise soon, and Adriel would need to retreat to his protected chambers, but for now they stood together in the study, reviewing the night's successes. We have the votes we need, Lucian confirmed. Alara, Marius of the Silver Coast, and young Cassian all pledged their support. The hearing should go in our favor. Unless Vladek has other tricks planned, Isolde cautioned. He's desperate, and desperate vampires are dangerous. We'll be ready for him, Seraphine assured them. I've tripled security for the trip to the council chamber tomorrow. Tomorrow. The formal hearing that would decide whether Adriel kept his territory and Nora kept her protection. She should be terrified, but instead she felt calm, confident. They had proven their bond was real. The rest would follow. The others left, and Adriel walked Nora to her chambers. At the door, he hesitated, clearly wanting to say something but unsure how. You were magnificent tonight, he finally said. The way you handled the council, the grace under pressure, your willingness to prove our bond. You are truly a queen, Nora. I had a good teacher, she replied softly, and a good partner. He smiled, then grew serious. After tomorrow, after the hearing, we should talk about the future, about what you want, where you want this to go. You've fulfilled the treaty, helped me secure the territory. You're free to leave if you wish, and I'll still help you build whatever life you desire. And if I don't wish to leave, then I would be the happiest creature in any world. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. But I need you to choose freely, without obligation or bond compulsion. I need to know you want this, want me, because it's what you truly desire. Nora caught his hand, holding it against her cheek. I'm already choosing, Adriel. Every moment I stay, every time I stand beside you, I'm choosing. The bond might have brought us together, but what I feel isn't compulsion. It's real. His eyes closed, and when they opened again, they burned with intensity. I'm falling in love with you, Nora Campbell Konstantin. I need you to know that before tomorrow, before whatever happens at the hearing, whatever you decide, that truth remains. Her breath caught. I think I'm falling in love with you too, which is insane considering we met 3 days ago, but he kissed her. It was gentle and careful, like he was afraid she might disappear, and Nora melted into it. His lips were cool against hers, but the emotion behind the kiss was searingly hot. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. I should let you sleep, Adriel said, though he made no move to step away. Probably, Nora agreed, equally unwilling to let go. They stood in the doorway, foreheads pressed together, and Nora felt the bond sing between them. This was right, this was real, and tomorrow they would fight to keep it. The council chamber was an underground cathedral, carved from black stone and lit by thousands of candles. 7 thrones ringed a central floor where Adriel and Nora stood, facing the assembled council members. Vladek stood opposite them, his violet eyes cold and calculating. Alara Nightshade, as the eldest council member present, presided over the hearing. We are gathered to address Vladek Draven's challenge to Adriel Konstantin's territorial claim. Vladek, present your case. Vladek stepped forward, his voice ringing through the chamber. For 200 years, Konstantin has held territory that borders 3 major regions. He claims this serves the greater vampire good, but in truth, he uses it to maintain outdated human alliances and resist progress. The land would be better served under my stewardship, where I would end the pretense of hiding and claim our rightful place as rulers of this world. Murmurs rippled through the assembled vampires, some approving, others concerned. Furthermore, Vladek continued, Konstantin's recent marriage is a transparent attempt to strengthen his claim through human bonds. While we've established the bond is real, its timing is suspiciously convenient. I maintain that his stewardship is weak, his vision outdated, and his territory wasted under his rule. Adriel stepped forward when Vladek finished. I've held this territory for 2 centuries without a single treaty violation, supernatural incident, or human uprising. The village pays tribute, we maintain peaceful coexistence, and the region is stable. Vladek's vision of open vampire rule would shatter that peace and bring war with the human world. Humans are cattle, Vladek snapped. We don't negotiate with cattle. Humans are intelligent beings with their own magic and weapons, Adriel countered. Underestimate them, and you'll discover they can destroy us as easily as we can destroy them. History has proven this repeatedly. You speak of history while you marry a human pet and call her queen. You've grown weak, Konstantin, soft. You're no longer fit to hold strategic territory. My marriage to Nora is irrelevant to my territorial stewardship, but since you raise it, let's address it directly. Adriel's hand found Nora's, threading their fingers together. My wife is not a pet. She's intelligent, brave, and she understands both our worlds. Through her, I maintain strong connections with the human community, connections that keep the peace and prevent the exposure Vladek's approach would guarantee. Nora felt all eyes turn to her. This was her moment, the chance to speak for herself and their future. She stepped forward, squeezing Adriel's hand for courage. I'm human, she said, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. I came to this world knowing nothing about vampires except what scared stories told me. I expected to die. Instead, I found a man, a vampire, who treats me with respect and honor, who values peace over conquest, cooperation over domination. Adriel Konstantin isn't weak. He's wise enough to know that true strength comes from building bridges, not burning them. Pretty words from a human who knows nothing of our ways, Vladek dismissed. I know enough to see that your way leads to destruction for both our kinds, Nora shot back. You want war, and war means death on all sides. How is that strength? It is dominance. It is claiming what is rightfully ours. It is arrogance that will get you killed. Nora's temper flared. You're so focused on proving vampire superiority that you can't see the value in partnership. That's not strength. That's insecurity. The chamber erupted in reaction. Some vampires laughing, others looking shocked that a human dared speak so boldly to a vampire lord. Vladek's face went purple with rage. How dare you? She dares because she's right, Alara interrupted, her voice cutting through the noise. I've heard both arguments, and I'm prepared to vote. Konstantin has proven himself a capable steward for 200 years. His marriage, far from being a weakness, demonstrates his commitment to the diplomatic approach that has kept this region stable. I vote to uphold his territorial claim. As do I, said Marius of the Silver Coast. And I, added Cassian. One by one, 5 of the 7 council members voted in Adriel's favor. Only Vladek's 2 allies voted against. The hearing was over, decided overwhelmingly in their favor. Vladek's control snapped. This is absurd. The council is corrupt, blinded by tradition and fear. I will not accept this ruling. You have no choice, Alara said coldly. The council has spoken. Konstantin retains his territory, and you will withdraw your challenge immediately. Never. Vladek's eyes blazed with madness. If the council won't give me justice, I'll take it myself. He moved faster than Nora's eyes could track, drawing a blade from his jacket and lunging toward her. Adriel reacted instantly, throwing himself between them, but Vladek was prepared for that. The blade caught Adriel across the ribs and he went down hard. Nora screamed as pain exploded through the bond, doubling her over. Through the haze of agony, she saw Seraphine and Lucian tackle Vladek, saw Isolde rush to Adriel's side. Blood, impossibly red against his white shirt, spread across his chest. Adriel! Nora dropped to her knees beside him, her hands hovering over the wound, not knowing how to help. His crimson eyes found hers. I'm all right. It's not fatal. You're bleeding? I heal fast. He struggled to sit up, wincing. Are you hurt? You just took a knife from me and you're asking if I'm hurt? Always. He touched her face gently. Always you first. Around them, chaos erupted. Council guards dragged Vladek away, still struggling and shouting threats. Alara stood over them, her expression grave. Attacking a bonded mate during a council hearing is among our highest crimes, she said. Vladek will be imprisoned and tried for this assault. You have my apologies, Konstantin. I should have anticipated he might turn violent. We all should have, Adriel replied, accepting Lucian's help to stand. But it's over now. He's shown his true nature before the entire council. A healer arrived, fussing over Adriel's wound and insisting he needed immediate treatment. As they led him away, Nora followed, refusing to leave his side despite multiple people assuring her he would be fine. In a private chamber, the healer cleaned and closed the wound with efficient magic. Adriel bore it stoically, but Nora could feel his discomfort through the bond, could sense how much energy the healing was taking from him. When it was finally done, the healer declared him recovered and left them alone. Adriel slumped in his chair, exhausted, You shouldn't have done that, Nora said quietly. Thrown yourself in front of the blade. Of course I should have. You're mine to protect. I'm not a possession to be protected. I'm your partner. You're both. He pulled her down onto his lap, wrapping his arms around her waist. You're my wife, my queen, my partner, and the person I love more than my own existence. If a blade is coming at you, I will always step in front of it. Nora's eyes burned with tears. And if I lose you, what then? You won't. I'm immortal, remember? Very hard to kill. His hand came up to brush away her tears. Don't cry for me, beloved. I'm fine. You were hurt. I've had worse. And this? He gestured to his healed side. This was worth it to keep you safe. She kissed him then, fierce and possessive, pouring all her fear and love and relief into it. He responded with equal intensity, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pressed her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adriel rested his forehead against hers. When we get home, we need to have that talk about the future. I already know what I want, Nora said. I want to stay. I want to be your queen, your partner, your wife in truth. I want to build a life with you. Even though it means being tied to the vampire world, even though there will be more challenges like Vladek, more politics and danger, even though, because I love you, Adriel Konstantin. Completely, impossibly, but absolutely. His eyes closed, and when they opened again, they shimmered with emotion. I love you too, more than I thought possible, more than I've loved anyone in 600 years. You've brought light into my darkness, Nora. You've given me hope again. Then we're agreed. I'm staying. Forever, he murmured against her lips. Because the bond will extend your life, and I'm selfish enough to want every moment I can have with you. Forever sounds perfect. They returned to the manor as dawn approached, the hearing's success settling over them like a warm blanket. The territory was secure, Vladek was imprisoned, and their future stretched ahead bright and certain. In the weeks that followed, Nora settled into her role as vampire queen with surprising ease. She learned the intricacies of court politics, made alliances with other council members, and used her human perspective to help Adriel navigate the changing relationship between their kinds. The village below, once so eager to sacrifice her, began sending requests for her to visit, to advise them. She ignored them. They had given her up, and she had found something far better. Margaret and Thomas became her friends, teaching her the manor's secrets and sharing stories of Adriel's long history. Seraphine trained her in self-defense, insisting that a queen should be able to protect herself. Lucian taught her vampire law and history in the archive. Isolde showed her how to manage the complex finances of an immortal household, and Adriel courted her properly, taking her on dates to hidden restaurants that catered to vampires and their human companions, to museums after hours when he could move freely, to his favorite places accumulated over centuries. He showed her his world with pride and patience, and she fell more in love with him every day. 3 months after the hearing, Alara Nightshade visited the manor with news. Vladek's trial had concluded with a sentence of imprisonment for a century. His territory had been redistributed, his allies had abandoned him, and his faction had collapsed. The council is impressed with your stewardship, Alara told them over tea in the study. There's talk of expanding your territory, giving you more influence. I'm content with what I have, Adriel replied, his hand finding Nora's automatically. More territory means more responsibility, and I'd rather focus on maintaining peace than expanding power. Alara smiled. Wise words. The old ways serve us well, despite what the young ones think. She turned to Nora. And you, young queen? How do you find life among vampires? Challenging, Nora admitted, but fulfilling. I'm learning every day, and I have a good teacher. You have a devoted husband who looks at you like you hung the stars, Alara corrected. It's refreshing to see true love in our courts. So often vampire marriages are political arrangements without warmth. You two are different. After Alara left, Nora and Adriel walked through the manor's gardens, enjoying the night air. The moon was full, casting silver light across carefully tended flowers and ancient trees. Are you happy? Adriel asked suddenly. Truly happy? Nora considered the question seriously. She had lost her old life, her humanity in some ways, her chance at a normal existence, but she had gained so much more. Purpose, love, a partner who cherished her, a world far larger than she'd ever imagined. Yes, she said simply. I'm happy. Are you? More than I've been in centuries. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her from behind. You saved me, Nora, not just from Vladek or politics, but from loneliness, from believing I would spend eternity alone. She leaned back against him, feeling his cool strength support her. We saved each other. I was invisible before you, drowning in a life that had no meaning. Now I have purpose. I have you. Always, he promised, pressing a kiss to her temple. Oh, for as long as you'll have me. That's a dangerous promise to make to someone with an extended lifespan, she teased. Then it's a good thing I have eternity to keep it. They stood in the garden, vampire king and human queen, and watched the stars wheel overhead. Somewhere in the village below, people slept peacefully, protected by the monster in the hills they had once feared. Somewhere in the vampire world, courts and councils plotted and planned, unaware that the greatest power often came from the simplest source: love freely given and gratefully received. 6 months later, Nora sat in the archive cataloging a new acquisition when Adriel found her. He moved through the stacks silently, but she felt his approach through the bond before he appeared. I have something for you, he said, his tone nervous in a way she rarely heard. Oh? She set down the book she'd been examining. He held out a small wooden box, intricately carved with symbols she recognized as ancient vampire runes. Open it. Inside, nestled on velvet, was a ring. Not a wedding band, they already wore those. Simple silver rings exchanged in a private ceremony a month after the hearing. This was different. A band of white gold set with a blood-red ruby that seemed to glow with internal fire. It's the Queen's ring, Adriel explained softly. Worn by the consorts of northern kings for 1,000 years. My mother wore it, and her mother before her. I want you to have it. Nora's hands shook as she lifted the ring from the box. Adriel, this is a family heirloom. Are you sure? You're my family now, the only family that matters. He took the ring and slid it onto her right hand where it fit perfectly. It's more than jewelry. It carries protective enchantments, and it marks you officially as my queen in the eyes of all vampire courts. No one will ever question your place beside me again. The ring warmed against her skin, and Nora felt magic settle around her like an embrace. She looked at this man, this vampire who had started as her death sentence and become her everything, and felt her heart overflow. I love you, she said, because nothing else seemed adequate. I love you, he replied, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. Thank you for walking through my door 6 months ago. Thank you for staying. Thank you for choosing this life, choosing me. Best decision I ever made. They kissed in the archive surrounded by centuries of history, and Nora knew that their own story would be recorded here someday. The vampire king who treated his human bride like she was made of glass and gold, and the sacrificial woman who found her true home in his arms. A year after Nora arrived at the manor, the village of Millbrook faced a crisis. A new illness had swept through, resistant to modern medicine, and people were dying. The elders, desperate and ashamed, sent a message to the manor requesting help. Nora read the letter aloud to Adriel in the study, her voice flat. They want you to cure them like you did 200 years ago. They're asking for help after they sent me here to die. What do you want to do? Adriel asked. The decision is yours. You're their representative now, by right of the bond. Nora stared at the letter, feeling conflicting emotions war within her. Anger at how they'd treated her, yes, but also compassion for the innocent people suffering, the children who had no say in the elders' decisions. We help them, she said finally, but on our terms. You'll provide the cure, but in exchange, the treaty changes. No more brides, no more sacrifices. Instead, the village provides regular tribute of supplies and information about supernatural activity in the region, and they acknowledge publicly that I'm not dead, that I'm your queen and their ally. Adriel smiled, turning into quite the negotiator, my love. I learned from the best. They went to the village together, Adriel in a covered carriage to protect him from daylight. The elders received them in the community hall, the same place where they had veiled Nora a year ago. Elder Thorne looked ancient and afraid, nothing like the stern woman who had sent Nora to her supposed death. My lord, she quavered, thank you for coming. Thank my wife, Adriel said coldly. She's the one who convinced me your people deserved help. All eyes turned to Nora, and she saw shock, shame, and relief flicker across familiar faces. She stood tall in her fine clothes, wearing her wedding rings and the Queen's ring, every inch the royal she'd become. "I'll help you," she said clearly, "but the old treaty is ended. From now on, we have a new arrangement." She laid out the terms while the elders listened in stunned silence. When she finished, Elder Thorne bowed her head. "We accept, and we apologize, Nora, for how we treated you. We were wrong." "Yes, you were." Nora's voice was hard, "but I've moved past it. I have a life now, a real life, and it's better than anything I would have found here. So I forgive you, but I don't forget. The treaty stands as I've stated, or you get nothing." "We agree," Elder Thorne said quickly. Thank you both." Adriel provided the cure, synthesized from his blood and distributed by the village doctor. Within days, the illness began to retreat. As thanks, the village held a celebration and invited Nora and Adriel as guests of honor. Nora walked through the streets she'd once called home and felt nothing but detachment. These people, these places, they belonged to someone else's life. Her real home was in the manor on the hill with her vampire husband and his immortal court. "No regrets?" Adriel murmured as they left the celebration early. "None. This was my past. You're my future." "Our future," he corrected, bringing her hand to his lips. "Together." "Together," she agreed. The years passed and Nora aged slowly, the bond preserving her youth far beyond normal human limits. She became a fixture at council meetings, respected for her wisdom and unique perspective. Other vampires began forming genuine partnerships with humans, inspired by her example. The divide between the species, while still present, began to narrow. On their 5th anniversary, Adriel took Nora to a hidden valley where ancient vampire magic pooled. "There's a choice I can offer you," he said as they stood beside a crystal-clear spring. "The bond has extended your life, but you're still human, still mortal eventually. But there's a ritual, very old, very rare, that could change you, make you vampire like me, give us truly forever." Nora's heart raced. "You want to turn me?" "Only if you want it. If you choose to remain human, I'll love you for however long we have, and I'll mourn you for eternity after. But if you want to walk through centuries with me to be truly immortal, the option exists." She thought about it, about living forever, about becoming vampire. It would mean giving up the last of her humanity, never seeing sunlight again, drinking blood to survive. But it would also mean never leaving Adriel, never aging beyond him, having eternity to explore their love. What does the ritual involve? "You would drink my blood, a significant amount, and I would drain you to the edge of death. Then, the magic of this place would transform you, remake you as vampire. It's painful, and there's no going back." "Would I change? Would I still be me?" "You would still be you. Your soul, your personality, your memories, all intact. You'd just be immortal, stronger, faster. Your eye color would change, your skin would pale, but your essential self would remain." Nora looked at the spring, at the magic shimmering in the water, and felt the bond pulse in her chest. She had spent 5 years learning to be brave, to claim what she wanted, to build the life she deserved. "I want it," she said. "I want forever with you." Adriel's eyes closed in relief. "Are you absolutely certain? There's no rush. You can take years to decide." "I'm certain. I've never been more certain of anything." She took his hands. "You're my home, Adriel. Wherever you are, for however long, that's where I want to be." The ritual was performed under the full moon with Seraphine, Lucian, and Isolde as witnesses. Adriel was gentle but thorough, giving her his blood first, then taking hers carefully while the magic of the spring wound around them. Nora felt herself slipping away, felt death approach, and wasn't afraid. She trusted Adriel completely. The transformation was agony and ecstasy combined, her body remaking itself cell by cell. When she opened her eyes, the world had changed. Colors were sharper, sounds clearer, and she could hear 4 heartbeats around her, including Adriel's slow, steady rhythm. She sat up, and Adriel was there immediately, supporting her. "How do you feel?" "Different. Powerful." She looked at her hands, noting how pale her skin had become, like porcelain in the moonlight. Did it work? See for yourself. He held up a mirror. Nora stared at her reflection. Her face was the same, but perfected, sharpened. Her skin was white as snow, her hair seemed to shine with inner light, and her eyes, once brown, were now the deep blue of midnight skies. She looked like a vampire, beautiful and dangerous and eternal. "I'm like you now," she whispered. "You're my equal in every way." Adriel kissed her softly. "My queen, my wife, my eternal partner. Welcome to forever, Nora." She kissed him back, feeling the bond settle into something even deeper, now that they were the same species. They had centuries ahead of them, millennia perhaps, and she would spend every moment grateful for the village that sent her to wed the monster in the hills. Because that monster had treated her like she was made of glass and gold, precious and irreplaceable. He had shown her what love really meant, what partnership and respect and devotion looked like. He had given her forever, and she would spend that forever loving him back. 10 years after Nora's transformation, she and Adriel stood on the balcony of the manor, watching the sun set over the hills. Well, watching was a generous term. They stood in the shadows where the last rays couldn't reach them, but they could see the colors paint the sky. "Do you miss it?" Adriel asked. "The sun?" "Sometimes," Nora admitted, "but not enough to regret my choice. I'd rather have you and the stars than daylight and loneliness." The manor had grown over the years. They'd expanded the archive, added gardens that bloomed at night, created a true vampire court that welcomed others seeking the peaceful approach Adriel championed. The Northern Territory was thriving, a model for vampire-human cooperation. Nora had also convinced Adriel to establish a school, teaching young vampires about the modern world and how to navigate it safely. She ran the school herself, using her teaching skills and human background to bridge the gap between ancient vampire traditions and contemporary reality. "The council wants us to host the summit next year," Adriel mentioned, "all 7 courts gathering here to discuss the new treaty proposals. That's a huge honor. It's because of you, your school, your diplomatic work, the way you've proven humans and vampires can be true partners. You've changed our world, Nora." She leaned against him, his arm coming around her automatically. "We've changed it. Together." They had faced challenges over the years, other vampires who disagreed with their approach, supernatural threats to the territory, the complex politics of an immortal society. But they had faced it all together, their bond unbreakable, their love unwavering. Seraphine appeared in the doorway behind them. "Sorry to interrupt, but we have visitors. A human delegation from the city, asking about establishing formal relations with the vampire courts." Nora and Adriel exchanged glances. This was new, humans seeking out vampires instead of fearing them. Progress. "We'll meet them in the formal hall," Adriel decided. "Nora, will you lead the discussion? They'll respond better to someone who is human." "Of course." She kissed his cheek and headed inside, falling into the role of diplomat and queen with comfortable ease. The meeting went well, establishing preliminary contact that could lead to open cooperation between humans and vampires. As Nora showed the delegates out hours later, she reflected on how far they'd all come. The monster in the hills was now a respected leader, and the sacrificial bride was now a vampire queen working to build bridges between worlds. That night, curled together in their bed as dawn approached, Adriel traced patterns on Nora's shoulder. "I never thought I'd have this," he murmured, "a partner who understands both parts of my life, who helps me be better, who I can build something meaningful with." "Neither did I," Nora replied. "I thought I'd die in this manner. Instead, I found life, real life, for the first time. I love you, Nora Campbell, for everything you are, everything you've done, everything we've built together. I love you too, always." They had forever now, stretching ahead bright with possibility. The village that had sent Nora to her death had instead given her the greatest gift, a chance at true love, real purpose, and a life beyond anything she'd imagined. The vampire king, who treated his bride like glass, had shown her she was strong enough to stand beside him as an equal. And together, they were changing the world, one careful step at a time, proving that even the strangest beginning could lead to the most beautiful ending. As sleep claimed them both with the rising sun, protected behind spelled shutters and thick walls, Nora's last thought was one of profound gratitude. She had walked into the manor expecting death and found her truest home instead, and she would spend eternity grateful for it.